All right. Good morning again. I'm Goose, and we have a privilege to again for another week. We get to hear from one of our mission team members who went into the inner city with the junior high team, and her name is Madison Park, and she is a rising ninth grader going to Cinco Ranch. And so, again, for as we wrap up the summer, and we want to continually reflect on missions and how we as a church continue to seek to be a light in the dark. And so we get to hear again just what God did in and through her. And so let's all welcome together up to the front, Maddie.
Hey y'all, my name is Maddie Park, and I am an incoming freshman at Cinco Ranch High School. Before missions, I was honestly really nervous, and I had a lot of doubts. I wasn't sure if my team would get along and be able to love each other like a family. I was also worried that I would let down my team and have trouble spreading the gospel to strangers. I kept thinking of all the things that could go wrong, and it made me begin to question if I should be going on missions at all. So when the day of our departure finally came, I was filled with excitement, but I had lots of anxiety as well. For our first meal, we went to this Mexican restaurant in inner city. It was actually karaoke night, and a DJ showed up and started blasting Gangnam Style. He then played the Cupid Shuffle, and soon enough, our whole team was laughing and dancing in the middle of a Mexican restaurant. There was actually another family there, and the mom pulled out her phone and started recording us. That first meal really brought my team closer together, and we started to feel more comfortable with each other. Tuesday night, we went to Bissonnette, which is an area known for sex trafficking. We learned how girls my age get trapped into this cycle, and it's really heartbreaking. While driving through Bissonnette, we saw lots of prostitutes walking up and down the streets, waiting for some man to come pick them up and use them to satisfy themselves. This practice is just horrible and so against God. Our team was silent while we were in the van. Nobody knew what to say. It was shocking and unexpected. After making a couple laps around the area, we went to a parking lot to worship and pray for all the sinful things happening in Bissonnette. We then shared how God was speaking to us at that moment. Our YWAM leader, Blake, told us to visualize what God was trying to tell us. David saw a lock and a key, Ben saw a bird, and for me, well, I saw nothing. I was honestly really disappointed because I wanted that experience with God, and I wanted to share it with my team, but nothing happened for me. I didn't really feel anything. I tried focusing really hard, and I was starting to get impatient. I couldn't understand whether it was God speaking to me or just me creating thoughts and pictures in my head. I eventually realized that God will always hear my prayers, and He will answer when the time is right. I decided to be patient and trust in Him. On the way home, we decided to play some music in the van. Be Enthroned started playing, and immediately my team started half singing, half yelling, and it was one of my favorite memories from missions. It was the first time my team really felt like a family. And as I looked at each of my team members, I could see God shining through them and in their hearts. Wednesday night, we went to something called Street Church, where broken people from all over Houston come to worship God in an empty parking lot. That night, there were about 75 people who came to Street Church, and it was incredible. A man named Pastor Joe was preaching that night, and he asked everyone a question. If you were to die tonight, would you be afraid? This question really got to me, and I didn't really know the answer. I wanted to say no because I knew that I would go to heaven, but at the same time, I was afraid. During Street Church, David and I were given the opportunity to share our testimonies to the people there, and it was really nerve-wracking. The thought of being on mic in front of all of those strangers and telling them my story made me kind of nervous, but kind of excited at the same time. I remember walking up to the front and seeing the big crowd in front of me. Although I was scared, it felt like God was standing right next to me, holding my hand, saying, "You can do it." After David and I shared our testimonies, lots of people came up to us saying how powerful and inspiring our testimonies were and thanked us for sharing. It was honestly such an amazing experience, and I was so glad to see how my story affected others. Later that night, I met a lady named Stephanie. She used to do drugs, she let men use her body, and she was very distant from God. She talked to me and Catherine and told us not to be like her and to stay with the Lord even in the darkest times. You could tell her heart had changed and she is not the woman she used to be. Her story was so inspiring, it actually brought me to tears. Overall, Street Church was one of the best experiences of my life, and I learned so much from the people there. Our last day of missions was the most memorable. So much happened on that day. It started off by going to the Galleria to pray for random strangers around the mall. It was definitely something I have never done before. We would go up to normal, everyday people and ask them if they have any prayer requests. Helen and I ended up getting to pray for 5 people, but got rejected by 7. After the Galleria, we went to Planned Parenthood. One of the YWAM leaders told us that this place kills about 70 babies each day. They lie to pregnant women and tell them that their baby has a disease and that they should get an abortion. To be honest, I didn't have much of an opinion on the whole pro-choice, pro-life debate. That was until I found out the sad truth behind abortion. They tear the baby apart, limb by limb, then suck them up with a vacuum. We spread out around the building to pray for the pregnant women coming here and for the people working here and for all the sinful things happening in this place. At church, we always pray when there's a mass shooting, and rightly so, but 70 babies die in this awful place every single day. I saw Helen and Catherine slowly walking towards me, and I was confused because we were supposed to be praying separately. Then I realized that Helen was sobbing and Catherine was trying to support her. I gave her a big hug, and then we decided to pray together, the 3 of us. We each prayed one by one, and by the time my turn was over, I was bawling, just to think about how so many innocent babies get killed here in one day. It's so horrible and depressing. When we got back to church, we talked about how we were feeling and what we prayed for. Peter shared his thoughts with the rest of the group. He said, "Why not us? What makes us so special that we get to live when all those babies don't?" This really hit hard. Immediately, all of us started sobbing. It was so emotionally devastating, but it brought our team closer together. That experience really made a difference in my life. I'm so grateful for Pastor Goose and Blake and Kirsten and everything they have done for us. My missions team became my second family. We laughed together, sang together, cried together. For 1 week, we did everything together. I cannot thank them enough for all the memories they have given me. Every moment I spent with them will forever be cherished. I hope that my testimony will inspire more people to join a team and go on missions. You won't regret it. Thank you.